All right, here we are on another episode of Salient Points. This is a special episode, by the way, the Games of the Year edition, where we will decide. It's going to be a weighted number one game of the year, but of course, we each have our own top 5 decisions to make. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of what, Dalan?
The master of origami cranes.
Carlos Macias, the master of origami cranes. And Jet has, I believe, something to say about the last master that you gave me, so we're gonna have to either you defend my honor or something. I don't know, we'll figure that out. But I'm Carlos Macias, and we also got Dalan Kirkwood from up in the mountains. Thank you for joining me, sir.
You're welcome. I will immediately call Jet out on that, but I guess when we get there, we'll
get there soon enough. We'll get there soon enough. I will say,
it's not
Dalan,
soon enough.
Dalan, for the people at home, are you going to show them the fact that you're wrapped in a sleeping bag? Are you going to show them, Dalan?
Hey, man, they already see my warm parka that I'm wearing. It's good.
Warm parka. Okay, you doing all right? I hope you're doing all right, man. I hope everything's okay. We also have Deo Blas, the king of the Mid-Bay. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Yo. Glad to see y'all in 2023.
Oh, yes. We're in the new year. We're going to talk about 22 for the last
survived.
time.
We're alive.
Hopefully for the last time until next year's 20XX game of 2023. That's the last time we probably talk about 2022. But Deo, I hope you're all right, man. We saw that picture you put up on Twitter that all the delineators, the traffic cones, as us normal folk call them, fell off the side of the road, man. So I hope you're doing all right.
Washed away. We're all flooded. We're all gone.
We should specify that all of us happen to be in California. So for anybody listening out of state, those floods and flood warnings for our state it got nasty. Especially mid California and northern California.
If it's not doxing you or anything, Deo, where were you there? You were not like in your home area, right? Or
No. I that's a project site that I have on. It's Highway 84. That thing has actually been closed for. What's today? The 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably what's today? Closed. That last year.
It's been closed since like January 2nd because of all the rising level of the water on the creek bed there.
Okay.
So and we got a copious amounts. Like Highway 101 up here was closed because there was flooding both ways, northbound and southbound. It was nuts, man.
Yeah, I think you guys get more weather issues or more rain maybe up there than we do in Southern California. And it's been raining, dude, and we don't know how to drive. We don't know how to react when it's raining down here.
No. So, we know how to drive, Carlos. It's other people that don't know
I'm saying
how to
the
drive.
collective. The royal we, Dalen. Of course, I'm not talking about myself, man. Of course, I'm not talking about myself.
But we'll be out there. We'll be like, man, everybody has lost their damn minds.
Yeah.
Like they just suddenly forgot how to drive.
So
that's what everybody says, dude.
That's true. and
I've seen like 5 cars flipped on the side of the road just on my way down the hill in the past like 2 weeks.
And Carlos's car drives itself, so you can't blame his driving.
I'm being. That's true.
Really blame
the computer if you must. But that voice you hear from the void is Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. Thank you for joining us, sir. And look, just to prove he's alive, although. You know, like when they have hostage takeover situations and they show the newspaper, we don't know you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. He is alive. He is alive.
It's just the way he came in, he just panned himself.
He is definitely alive.
I don't have a newspaper.
Okay. You're welcome to shuttle down, Luis. We will be, Luis is, but he's here. There you go.
The proof is in the pudding. You know we got to put this on air, right?
So we have, as you can see,
we need a newspaper with you,
and it's proven that he's alive. But he's gonna be behind the green screen here, the straight green screen. But he will definitely have some commenting to do throughout the show. Thank you for joining us, Luis Mendez. We will get right to it. The first thing, of course, the people speak. We got Jet. He said, and this is what we were referring to earlier, Dalan. He said, "No way. I am the master of can tabs," which is, I think, what you mastered me or deemed me a master of last week, right?
Yes.
What do you have to say to this man, Dalan? I need to put the yay nays on here.
I would say, who the hell made it the arbiter of cans? Get out of here.
Okay, sorry, Jet.
But that said, Jet, who is one of my roommates, decided that he was just out of the blue going to start collecting these canned tabs. And I was just like, why? What are you going to do with them? I guess recycle them. I don't know. He's too lazy to do
That's
that.
how you came up with that, then, I guess. The can taps when you.
That's part of the. That's part of the reason.
You were
and
thinking
also,
about in the back of your mind.
Also, I was staring at one at the time. So.
Okay, hey, that's how the mind of Dalan works. What am I staring at the time? To reference here. Okay, but
that's all you need.
Any thoughts on that, Deo or Luis? I suppose about the man telling me I can't be the master of that.
I now know the intimate knowledge of Jet's relationship to Dalan now.
There you go. Oh, damn. We might have doxed him. Okay, good job, Dalan. Good job, Dalan.
That's only for anybody who knows who lives with me.
All right. Well, there you go. You let them know. You just let them know, actually.
Yes,
so we'll hit up some quick news before we get, of course, to our top games of the year. It's usually a top 5. Then we do the honorables. We'll do the honorable mentions. We'll do honorable mentions.
That was the last pod.
Yes, that was the last podcast. I hope you guys listened to it, the Wacky Awards. But the first thing on here, so the Final Fantasy 16 producer Naoki Yoshida has confirmed that Final Fantasy 16 is not coming to PC. He actually told gamers out there, quote, buy a PS5. Which kind of reminds me of like going back to, we've talked about it before, but going back to like the PS3 era where they're like, get a second job. It's like, what are you doing not having the hardware that it requires? So I kind of like the smoke. I like the smoke talking about, yeah, it's not going to be PC, just deal with it. You know, the little emoji with the little kid and the sunglasses or whatever, like, just deal with it. But how do you feel about this, Dalan? You feel like that's okay? Telling the people
I feel like it's not coming to PC right now. I mean, right now, they're selling Final Fantasy 1, 2, and I guess 3 on PC, and it took them 40, 50 years to put that on there. Final Fantasy 7 did not drop on PC, but they eventually did it. You know, the PC Master Race, they complain enough, they will get a game on their system.
Yeah, I like it though. I like it, man, because it's definitely one of those things where, like, I was just saying it before we got on Wax, but my motto is, you know, fuck computers, right? Like, they're just
you will never play a game on a PC.
By the way, I have, and I potentially will, but just so everyone knows, I had to reset my computer to factory reset the thing in the last week, all right? And it's out of control around here.
You just don't know how to use computers. Just user error.
Usererror.com.
Straight up.
Huh? My brother did sell me this computer, though, so maybe that's...
out.
But anyways, buy a PS5. I like the smoke. I particularly enjoy it. There was other smoke though. Apparently Adam Sessler was kind of getting on gamers' nerves. He did tweet this out over a few days ago. He said, quote, one of the worst things you can do to society is teach a gamer to believe in themselves. After the past few months, what kind of simple-minded, sheltered Dick Twiddle thinks I have any interest in them as an audience or any interest in games content anymore, which is, it's funny because a lot of the comments, and yes, people were throwing crap at him, and you know, he's kind of a personality out there. He's been a personality for a while, right? Going back to his X-Play days, which is kind of what he made his I'm assuming a lot of his money from. But he also kind of kept throwing crap at people as like, oh, well, I founded an AI company that I sold to Reddit, so I just chill now. And it's kind of like, it's a little weird. It's a little weird. So it's one of those things where, like, you can I feel like he can respect the audience. He can disagree. Like, we can disagree. If you guys comment on YouTube, we'll tell you straight up what we think. But I feel like it can be respectful. It's like, you're wrong, you're wrong, and this is why. But he was kind of wilding out. Did you catch some of this over the last few days, Deo? The Sessler drama?
I saw just little bits of it. I caught the tail end because a lot more people, like on Twitter, like RG64 or whatever his name is, and a few other YouTubers who are gamers too, started talking shit back to him, or quote tweeting him and then talking shit. And yeah, I mean, I get like where they're coming from, where they're saying like they're trying to throw him under the bus, saying like Adam like hates gamers, like he's been hating them all the time. He doesn't call himself a gamer, even though he's made so much money and a career off of the whole system. So like I get that, but at the same time, I'm like, this guy has been dealing with this like trash for like so long, ever since X-Play, like you said. And he was the face of a lot of television personalities who talk about video gaming, and he was one of the pioneers for that. And it's been a long time that he's had to deal with it. I think social media has like enhanced that or amplified that to the point where he's just like, you know, fuck this. And it doesn't matter what he says, whether positive or negative. that he's gonna get like blowback anyway. So he's and the guy, you got to think about where he comes from. He's like kind of a nerd, and he's not like the type of person that's super friendly if you really talk to him or like read interviews or there's witness interviews of him back in the day. He's super awkward and he's super sarcastic.
Well, the guy found an AI company, right? So it's kind of like you don't necessarily create an AI company. You're just like some whatever nerd. And honestly, on kind of in the background, I won't say who, but I've heard from multiple like journalists when I used to go to E3 and stuff, where like that guy's kind of an asshole, right? But I think but one of the things I think is probably like his breaking point, right? Like with this whole thing, it was like, all right, you know what, whatever. Like you were saying,
handled it.
Yeah,
the way he handled it was probably not his best, way to do it. So I mean, but it was going to come out eventually.
But he's double. We'll go to you, Dalan, real quick. But he's double and triple down though is the thing, right? And still like, all right, let me just lay down.
Dude, people do that all the time nowadays, and it freaking works. It's crazy.
Which is funny because he says he's kind of like semi-retired and stuff like that, and he's like, you know what, I'm just whatever. And he apparently just read Don Quixote or something like that, which is kind of cool. That he's like, you know what, I'm talking shit with you guys, but I read a book at the same time, and I finished it, and it was interesting, kind of thing. Go ahead, Dalan, before we kind of go on to the next thing.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know who this man is, but I will say that if you are on social media, period, and you are looking for any type of an audience, then you are technically interested in everybody, regardless of what you're trying to do. However, once you get big enough, it turns into basically that customer service thing where a customer will come in and say, "Well, you guys, you're not getting my business anymore," and the person on the other end of the counter is like, okay,
but this does. I don't know if I put it on wax. I might have put it on wax already. But this further proves that Dalan uses the internet, but it's not on the internet. Because
wait. Do I have to know this man from the internet? He was. Like he did other things.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So why do I have to know him from the internet?
Fair, Dalan. Fair, very fair. But he was on X-Play with Morgan Webb and all that, and they did Attack of the Show. It was like I don't. Yeah, it's a little weird that you never.
No, I do remember that show, but I don't know specifically who you're talking about.
He's the main guy, like the main, like it was.
Oh,
it was Adam. It was Adam.
Okay. Yeah, you say that now. I know who it is once you say that.
Kind of's been balding for a while, sort of situation.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
But
people were already jealous of him hosting with Morgan Webb because people were super about Morgan Webb, and they're already talking smack about him at that time. And
that was one of the early gamer girls. That's why.
Exactly. And so people were so butthurt about that, and they've been talking shit to him for over a decade now. And so,
yeah, so that's the drama. That's the smoke. The next thing we have on here is Hogwarts Legacy is apparently the top game at Steam. But I looked more into it, and it's actually the number 5 game, but it's the number 1 game that is not a free to play, that is not Counter-Strike Go, Dota 2, Apex Legends, and apparently Steam Deck is number 2 on that list for some reason. And all it does is track revenue, so meaning revenue-wise, it's the top selling game on there that's not free to play. What are your thoughts on this? Are you hyped for Hogwarts Legacy, Dale? Like you're ready for that thing to come out?
Yes.
Fair.
I saw the developer preview for it and it's like a half an hour long preview. And at first I was just like, this looks so boring. It's another open world kind of game like Assassin's Creed or something. And then they jump on like a broomstick and they fly through the freaking land of mystical wonder, and they pull like a magical hippogriff outside of their pocket, and I'm like, what? We could do this? Insane.
When does this game come out? It's coming out soon. No, they delayed it. They made a tiny delay, right? Like a month delay or something. So we still got a few months to go. I might, I've been to the Wizarding World or whatever, but I've never really seen all the movies. Maybe I'll go through.
You've never seen all the movies?
I'm sorry. I know you're disappointed. I know you're upset right now, Dale.
Maybe you're not talking about the Fantastic Beasts. You're just talking about the core 8 movies, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not doing no side quests, dude. It's Critical Path. I'm critical pathing. I'm critical pathing the movies. All right, there's no side questing for me. All right, especially because they're not so great, right? The offshoots or whatever, they're not as good.
No, the Fantastic Beasts are prequels. The only problem is the whole situation that happened with Johnny Depp. Outside of that, they're actually okay movies.
All right, well that's Hogwarts Legacy. People are hyped. People are super hyped, man. Just like Dale's like, I'm ready. He's ready to go. You're ready day one.
I'm cautiously hyped because I love Harry Potter, but like the developer that's making it is a relatively small and unknown studio who's worked on like really weird projects, so I'm like, it might be good.
So cautiously optimistic. Maybe GameFly. GameFly, we're still waiting on that sponsorship. So let's get a Dale a GameFly subscription or something.
Dale, throw caution to the wind. Just do it.
Damn. Okay, Dalen. Okay, Dalen. Next thing we have on here is if you pre-order apparently the Dead Space remake that's coming out later this month, which should be better than, as you guys remember, I gave the Callisto Proto keys, Dalen, as you like to call it.
No, don't you dare put that on me on wax. I will never call it. That's a stupid name for that game.
The Callisto Protocols, I gave it the Daddy Did It Best award. But if you pre-order the remake of, I hope this is a better game, the Dead Space remake later this month, you get Dead Space 2 through Steam, which I think it's interesting. They're kind of saying this is the best one, right? They didn't say let's give you the trilogy, let's give you 1, let's give you 3, let's give you 2. We know where our bread was buttered, and we know which one was the best game of them all. And I kind of can agree, Dan. Do you agree as well that that's a good choice for them to give away if you pre-order Dead Space remake?
Besides the fact that I think it's a good choice, I also think it's a smart choice, simply because for the game itself, I was around when those games dropped, and I very thoroughly enjoyed Dead Space 1, and I was highly anticipating Dead Space 2. Then I was anticipating Dead Space 3 until I was disappointed by that. But the fact is that it's been years since those games have come out, and we now have a whole new generation of gamers that just never had a chance to even touch them. So for anybody really getting into the games, this would just give them a chance to really understand how much of a marvel those games were.
You are correct, Dalan. You are very correct. Look, I'm doing real time math, so I'm setting up for that for the games of the year, because the weighted game of the year will be decided, and I'm gonna have to do a little math on air. But you are very correct on that, Dalan. Deo, I know the news that came out. They did drop finally a trailer for Gran Turismo 7, and the movie is coming out August 11th. Did you watch the trailer, or did you go black on it? You were like, no, let me check this out.
No, I watched the trailer because I want to know what they're getting into. I watched the presentation where Jim Ryan was also, talking about PlayStation VR and having Gran Turismo on the PSVR 2. But from the movie trailer, it looks generic as hell.
Yeah, that was my problem. I saw the sneak peek video that was there. I was like, I have very high standards when it comes to to racing movies, because I got to say one of my favorite racing movies of all time, like live action racing movies, is the movie Driven with Sylvester Stallone.
That's not bad.
That was an excellent movie. That's like top tier.
Underrated.
It's very underrated, but like top tier. It was a super excellent movie. So I kind of base every other like purely racing movie on that. And then I'm seeing this, I'm like, man, I might as well just go watch Fast and the Furious. I'll be better off. I mean, I'm already skeptical of the fact that Sony Productions or Sony Studios are the ones that really helped fund this film itself. And after seeing Uncharted and I know they did another movie that had Sony Studios Productions on it, I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if it's going to be any good.
Have they done? Was it? It was Sony Productions that did the Spider-Verse movie, I think, right? No, or no?
Yeah,
no,
that was
like
completely different.
It was like Columbia Pictures.
Oh, okay, so we can trust them. But yeah, as far as what we could tell from Uncharted, where look. I went to watch Uncharted with my daughter. She's a huge Uncharted fan. Even her favorite one is the girl Uncharted, as she calls it, the Lost Legacy one. She said, I played it 5-6 times. Like, yeah, no duh. It was like 5 hours long, child. But anyway, she's a big fan.
Like 5 hours long. But I remember it was Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
That was the
but she we went to go watch the Uncharted movie, and you would think, she doesn't have necessarily the most critical eye towards these things. You would think she'd be like, I like it, and she was like, nah, the games were better. So I think they have their work cut out for them. But I don't care that much, but I didn't watch the trailer day. I was like, maybe I'll check it out. I do want to be on blackout to just be ready for it. But go ahead.
I want to put on wax. I'm going to predict what the plot is going to be like.
Okay,
right
do
now.
it.
God,
Let's
it's
go.
that generic.
Let's
right
go.
now.
Let's go.
I feel like what they're going to do is that it's going to be like this the character's name is either going to be Aiden or Cole, and he's going to rise up through the ranks through like GT Academy because they've done that before, and he's going to learn how to drive on track and figure out how to
you can see it now. You can see it
best
now.
of them and everything. Yeah. But like, I don't know how the heck they're going to make a story or a plot line out of something like that, and then call it.
It's going to be a love story. Just accept it. It's going to be.
There's going to be some love involved. They got to throw in some love in there.
Cars, whatever.
There you go.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I'd rather watch Ghost of Tsushima when that comes out because they got 8711 involved. That's
so Dan, you want to hope that this one's at least good, decent, better than Uncharted. So when they finally get to Ghost of Tsushima, they've mastered it, right? That's what we're hoping for. That they've become good at making games-based movies. I
don't think it works that way, but
I can't really compare those the same way. I see you laughing about it, but I can't compare those that way. My thing is, fair. I always have the high hopes that when you have a movie based on such of a very prestigious IP, that it comes out good. Because Need for Speed was crap. I don't know why they decided to make that. They dropped the ball hard on that, but they need to just take that out of
I don't think that wasn't necessarily Sony, right? Or I don't.
No, that definitely wasn't Sony. That was way before Sony decided they were going to make movies. But they still lent out the IP, and the movie came out terrible. When you know that Sonic the Hedgehog's coming out, everybody's like, "I hope this movie's going to be good," and then the fans had to yell at them. It's just the fact that we always hope that when you see something that you love come to life on the silver screen, that it's good.
Well, let's hope.
And I'm looking at Gran Turismo, and my hopes are not very high for this, but I'll watch it.
All right, there we go. So let's hope for the best, right? Sometimes trailers are terrible and the movie's good. Sometimes the trailers are terrible and the movie is probably worse.
It's actually excellent.
We'll see. Next thing we have on here before we get to our much coveted top games of the year, and the number one, we're gonna do live math here. I guess. CD Projekt Red will pay $1.85 million to settle a class action lawsuit saying it misled investors on quality of Cyberpunk 2077. And what are your thoughts on that, Dalan? How are you feeling about that? Is this justice? Is this the justice that we've been waiting for?
I think that CD Projekt Red is kind of getting it from all sides. The fans are mad at them. The investors are mad at them. They're mad at themselves. I mean, even hackers are mad at them. They stole their code and held it for ransom, lost that money. And now they're having to pay out, what was it again? $1.8 million? Yeah,
1.85. Yes,
because I guess it was misleading investors, but I feel like it was a little bit of false advertisement. But they were talking about it's ready, it'll be ready. It wasn't ready.
It was not ready. And with that, we are ready, but we will. I know I just threw it on here. Just so we can mention it real quick. I'll go first so you guys kind of know how it goes. But so the games that we'll go for the top games of the year. But I will say I want to mention a couple games that did not go into my criteria, mainly because I didn't play it. I didn't get a chance to. But I feel like they would have had a chance to be up there. I'll just mention them real quick. One of them was Splatoon 3. I'm very weird. My brain is weird that way. I was trying to beat 2 first, and then of course it's an expansion, so I would have wanted to beat the expansion. I didn't beat none of those, so I didn't get to Splatoon 3. I didn't get to Horizon 2 either. Horizon Forbidden West,
Zero Dawn
could have potentially been up there.
Forbidden West.
Forbidden West.
Wait, was that this year?
That was 2022.
That was right at the beginning of this year.
Spoiler, Dave.
The beginning of last year.
Little spoiler. Yeah, it was the beginning of last year. I think it might have came out around Elden Ring. Little did they know that the blast radius would be Elden Ring, and they're like,
what do you mean, little did they know? That game was hyped up hard.
Yes, but the Demon Souls games and these other games, they weren't like massive successes like Elden Ring was. Like it was, I feel like it was a little surprise, and they should have learned their lesson because they did. The first game came out during another blast radius type of game, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they're like, they can't catch a break. But look, Sony loves them. It's coming out on VR, so I didn't get a chance to play that. I also, the one that probably would have been up top with me, Crisis Core remake, man. It was our game of the year, Dan. It was our unanimous game of the year 2 years ago. I think it would have been up there, but I didn't get a chance to play it.
Hey, wait for this year. We'll see what happens.
Well, it'll be my 20XX game, maybe potentially. But Dalan, if we can go to you first, is there any games that you just didn't get around to playing them? I suppose. Is there anything?
Oh, that I didn't get around to playing them. There were actually a couple that I.
Are you ready, or does Dale go first?
No, okay. I got it. Okay. There were a couple that I didn't actually get around to playing, or I didn't really play enough of it. One of them was Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Even though that was fun for me and you for a short levels, period, we kind of dropped it after a little bit, and we never really gave it a true chance. But it just felt like Borderlands to me, so I felt like I didn't really need to do too much on that. I gave up on Mario Strikers.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Reasonable.
The only reason I don't have it up here is simply because I didn't really, even though we kind of played through the quarry, I myself didn't actually go back and play through the quarry, so I cannot honestly give it an opinion based on that. Yes, I hated the one multiplayer aspect of it,
and it's the way to experience that game too, man. It's like the way to experience
stupid.
It. Yeah.
That is dumb.
Yeah.
And I still haven't gotten around to playing a Plague Tale Requiem, even though I've been waiting on that game. There's just too many games in the bucket, man. There's just too many.
And 2022 was a year where a lot of games got pushed out to 2020. If you guys look at the what's coming out this year, dude, it's like nothing but a lot of stuff that got delayed in 2022 man. So we're in trouble, but good trouble, I would say. We're in good trouble. There's just a lot that we're gonna have a lot of options here. Dale, go ahead, Dale.
Well, one last thing, I'll just mention it simply because I did start it, but I didn't get far enough into it. Is Callisto Protocol? I made sure to pick it up. I have Callisto Protocol. I'm gonna make sure to play that game, but I just haven't played the game.
Yeah, which as when we talked about it, I believe last week or a couple weeks ago, whenever we did, play it if you're interested. I just don't take my I'm not the definitive opinion on this, right? But so I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are. You know what my thoughts are. You know what award I gave it. So Dale, what are games that maybe you just didn't get around to that potentially could have made it into your top list?
Oh, dude,
wait! This was potentially for my top list.
Well, just whatever. You already said your piece, Dalan. Dale, right. What are games you played that maybe you wish you would have played? I guess.
Exactly. I thought you were asking what games I wanted to play from last year, but didn't get around to get.
Okay. So that's the question we're going.
Okay, sure. We'll do that one. One. Sure. Yes.
So, one of the ones for the Switch, I definitely wanted to get around to Bayonetta 3. That was one I was looking forward to. Live Alive.
Live Alive.
Leave him alone, Dalan. Leave him alone. All right.
Right now.
He's trying to figure out his thing.
Yeah, but he pronounces it how he pronounces
wrote this
it.
down.
All right.
That's what I wrote.
It was my bad. I kind of threw it in. All right, threw an audible in.
Yeah.
So my bad.
What else was there? Soul Hackers 2 was another one that I really wanted to get to. And the two biggest ones obviously are Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Those were the two biggest ones.
You see, your problem is that you moved.
There's a lot going on in Dale's life. Thank
you.
And the background is blurred out a little bit, but I'm assuming the Dexter rapping is still back there.
Still there.
It's gonna take a couple of years to unpack this house.
It's not going anywhere, man.
So anything else, Dale, that you kind of missed out on that you're like, I could have made time for? You got a lot.
Sonic Frontiers, that was another one.
Did you have to get around to that one though? I guess we'll find out if it's in top games for Dalan. I guess we'll find out if it's in his top games. But okay, Sonic Frontiers. Luis, if we may gather your attention, but is there any games that maybe you missed out on that you would have wanted to play?
I'm gonna go with the original question because I was actually paying attention.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for backing me up here.
Okay.
There aren't any games that I think would have possibly made my top 5, but there are two that I think could have been in honorable mentions.
Okay.
And Horizon Forbidden West and Callisto Protocol. Horizon was I mean, I didn't finish it. Like it felt like a chore. The story wasn't engaging enough for me to want to keep playing it, so I stopped. Yeah. And Callisto Protocol, kind of same deal. Like the combat and all that was satisfying enough, but the story, like I was just like, why? I didn't feel like there was any reason why I was doing what I was doing. I'm like,
I thought you beat that game.
Yeah, no.
You're like, no, hell no.
They could have possibly gone into honorable mentions, but I don't think they could have gone top 5. Those are the only 2 games.
All right, yeah. So which is kind of like these games have to pull you through, man. They have to kind of engage you. The gameplay has to be good, right? But sometimes the story is just it's got to pull you through. Anything else, please? Or those were the 2, right? That didn't get around to playing. Dalan, so we'll go into honorable mentions. These are basically games. I hope you're listening, Dalan. I hope you're listening.
Am I listening? Are you listening?
These are games that just for whatever reason didn't make your top 5, but you're like, you know what? Let me throw this out there. This was still fun enough. This was a decent game that I had fun with.
Yeah, it's like it got close to my top 5 or was almost on my top 5 in this particular case. But right at the beginning of January, there was a game that came out for free, as a matter of fact, Deep Rock Galactic. And I actually very much enjoyed playing that game. It is a great multiplayer game, 4-player, go and murder bugs, mine shafts, collect all the things, blow up big machinery. It's honestly a fun game when you have people to play.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. I do remember that game. So
I'm down to go.
You're
back
always down, Dalan. You're always down. I will give you that. You're always down. All right.
I'm always down.
What else? What else did you get? What else is outside your top 5?
Another one, me and a couple of my friends actually got stuck on Windjammers 2. It was basically Disc Jam, but like stepped up significantly. And the animation was beautiful. The gameplay was smooth. And one of my friends got way too good at it way too quickly. And Alan,
it was not fun anymore. It was not fun anymore.
Alan, if you're listening to this, you made it not fun for like 5 minutes. But then we started figuring out how to beat you. I was very determined. Then I did actually beat Sonic Frontiers, and the only reason it's not on the top of my list is because there are better games that came out in 2022. But Sonic Frontiers was honestly a good Sonic game. I do advise playing through it one time at the very least. If you want to change, if you want to just rent it, beat it, and take it back, that's fine. I'd say try it at least once. You could say in your repertoire you actually played a good Sonic.
There's no 7 or 8 endings or nothing like that, right? Right, Dalan? I can just critical path and I'm good to go, right?
Yes, okay. Yes, 100%.
We'll see. We'll see.
Then the last one that's my honorable mention, because it was right on the cusp, because it was a damn good game, but Trek to Yomi is on my honorable mention because I was waiting for that to come out. It was a beautiful silhouette game that was very much what is what I'm looking for. It was inspired by the man who did Seven Samurai. So it was just an excellent game the way that they did it. And I got far enough into that game to where the story started to have an M. Night Shyamalan twist, and there were monsters that were being thrown at me. I was like, this game is not what I thought it was. And it started getting better as I went along, but I never actually beat it. So.
All right, there you go. That one's and that we're gonna if you're ready, Dale, if you're ready to go into your honorable mentions, that's also on your honorable mentions, right? Trek to Yomi, right? If you want to kind of follow up. Yomi.
I'm glad Dalan brought that up too, because like that is also one of my honorable mentions. I bought a physical copy of it.
There you go.
So I'm like super happy someone else also brought it up in their list.
Yes, because Trek to Yomi was actually good.
It was really good. It was something very different, and there wasn't any dialogue.
There was dialogue. There was plenty of dialogue. There was plenty of dialogue.
Right. But like for what it was, like it was very minimalistic, but like it puts you in that scene really easily of the Kurosawa type film era.
That was it.
That's what it. Yeah, that was it. I was like, what is it? I'd have to Google it, but yes, Kurosawa.
Yeah, and like it was cool. Although at the time I was playing on my PC and I had to play with keyboard controls because I couldn't find my controller at the time. It's much easier to play on a controller than it is a keyboard. By the way,
you hit that counter button. You got to be ready to do it.
You have to be ready, and the keyboard is so hard to gauge that one.
Wait, this is you do a lot of countering game because Bayonetta has got me into the mood of counter and dodge.
This game a lot of countering and a lot of counter attacking. Right. A couple of pieces of dodging, so you might actually enjoy it. Counter, dodge, strike. That's what you got.
There's a lot of secrets in it too, like that gets you along, and I mean,
it's really just fighting the nooks and crannies. Things are hidden behind like a leaf that you can't see it. You're just like searching the area. You're like, oh, I ran into the shiny thing.
It's very real. Did you try the Kurosawa mode in Ghost of Tsushima? By the way, that game gave you a black and white mode or whatever. So that's another cool way to play that one. What else do you have, Dale, on your just honorables?
So I just realized that like 2022 is like just my year of indie games. That's what I loved most out of everything, I guess. Probably because I only had time enough for like short indie games that are like, really focused. So another one that I liked is Sifu. It was a martial arts fighting game, according to the Game Awards. And that was really cool. Like it had like all this martial art like inspired stuff. It had a really cool like aging mechanic built into it too. I don't know. I just really had a great time with it. It's hard, but like it should be one of those things that I go back from like time and again just to try to beat. Even though I did it one time and I'm like, okay, story's okay.
And it's kind of supposed to be sort of a roguelike type, and I hate them. By the way,
which is what I like kind of don't like. So.
Yeah. By the way, this is in my honorable mentions as well. But I did try out Sifu. I played through it. I put it like on easy or whatever, man. I was like, whatever. Look, I like the mechanics. I like the John Wickness of it. I just want to get through the story because I think the art is cool in it. The mechanics are really cool. I just don't want to keep dying and keep rogueliking it. So it is very doable. Okay. So it's very doable to play it. And it's not easy as in like it's a cakewalk. It's still a bit challenging, but at least it's not fully roguelike and you got to keep repeating the same levels. It's much doable. I suggest you guys put that thing on easy, play through the 4 or 5 levels or whatever, and enjoy like the graphics and the story in that. But yeah, that's definitely one of my honorables as well. You have another one though, Dale, right?
Yeah.
One last one.
Yeah, my last one. The last one's another indie game, and it's High on Life, which is super unexpected to even me because I don't really like Justin Roiland humor. But it grew. Like the more you play it, it just grows on you. It hits that like that gamer niche, and they know how to get into that psyche of the gamer. That they know how to twist the knife and make you think differently or make jokes about it. It's really fun. So. Yeah.
I think that was a part of one of your awards last.
That's one of the
right. I go in more depth of it than last Salient Points number 95. But I don't know why it just stuck with me the entire compared to all these other games.
And it's one that I plan on getting around to for sure. I want to kind of mess with it because you don't get games that are very humor based very much, right? So the fact, and from what I understand, the mechanics might be wonky and there might be issues gameplay wise.
Yeah, it's rough.
But from what I understand, a lot of there's some good jokes in there. There's some good like timing based stuff, and so I definitely want to try it. It's on Game Pass, right? So it's a perfect game to try out. Luis, you have a one honorable mention from what I understand, right? It's to talk about if you're ready, sir.
Yeah, and it's kind of just like by default, if I'm being honest, because it's the one other game that I actually finished this year. So it's the 6th game, basically.
There you go.
I could put in Overwatch 2, but I don't know if that necessarily would even qualify for that. I mean, it was different game modes from Overwatch 1, but I don't know if they really necessarily improved anything overall from the last one aside from new characters and maps and game modes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the game is The Devil in Me, and it was a video game that I played.
It was a video game. It was a game.
I guess the one positive that I'll take out of this is that it is very beatable in one session. You and I, Carlos, we beat it in one session.
I was COVID symptomatic when I beat this game, so I played through it with you. Yes,
and it did have some pretty good potential there for the story and everything, but I mean it was bugs galore. Not only was it visual bugs or whatever, But there were probably at least 5 times in the game we were playing where we had to quit because something happened. Like it was a game stopper or showstopper where we couldn't continue playing because of whatever reason.
The
And
loading screen
sometimes
wouldn't
where, like, some
continue, and you just saw the little thing in the corner forever.
No, it wasn't loading screen. It was like while we were playing. It was just we can't do this. Like it's not letting us do this. We have to quit.
Yeah, I owe you a playthrough, Dalan. When we play, you're gonna find out, man. When we play through it, I owe you. And you know, it's the other side. But I hope that Luis, you finally understood what I meant by the quarry is like high level compared to.
I wouldn't even put them in the same field, dude. I don't know why you would even compare them.
No, it's wild. The quality difference.
Quarry,
yeah.
Well, the quarry never made decisions for me. The devil in me definitely made decisions where I was like, I pulled the lever. I don't know why you're dead.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
the honorable.
It's funny though, because like the Dark Pictures anthology or chronicles, whatever they call it, it's like their TV show quality games, and then they have the high level like film or whatever style with the quarry, and with the last one that they did was Until Dawn. Like those are just on a different level, like you just mentioned. But yeah, that was your 6th game. For my honorable mentions, the first one I have on here is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. We talked about it last week, Dalan. We had so much fun with it. We spent like a couple days just demolishing this game. It was so fun. Played it co-op. It just doesn't make my top 5. You know, there's more top 5s on there. The other game, Elden Ring, I played maybe 11 hours of it, and the only reason I have it as my honorable mentions is the fact that I played it for 11 hours. Like any other like rogue like type of game or anything like that or a Demon Souls like or whatever you want to call it, I quit within like 30 minutes or an hour. I think the last one was, what was it? There was like a ninja one, right, that came out that I was like, yes, this looks Neo? Nice. No, there would be the one before that one, where you had a mechanic arm and you kind of like would modify that. Yeah, Sekiro was the last one. I was like, yes, I got like little, little machines or whatever that I can use. So I had fun with that one. That one lasted maybe like 2 levels. So Elden Ring is just honorable, and just the fact that I did spend a good chunk of time before I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I've seen enough. So Elden Ring is on there. You guys will really enjoy this one, but this one's right outside my top 5 is Stray. Stray was cool. I know, Dalan, you gave it your what is it, Ratchet and Clank award of frictionless gaming last week.
For the 2022, that was the smoothest game that I ever. It
was.
Which honestly I should have had on my honorable mentions, but I just failed to put it on.
Okay. Oh, so now we know it's not in your top 5 then. All right, that's cool. So Stray is up there. I had fun with it. It was just I'm sorry, Dale. It was too indie for me. Maybe It was just I don't know. And there was and it was smooth, but there was stuff. Times that I got stuck in it. The other one, and I know I kind of bring this up because I know Luis was like, I don't know if it qualifies, and I didn't put any criteria. Maybe after we find out what's game of the year or not, maybe we put in a little bit of criteria. But for me personally, I put The Last of Us Part 1. I know I joke with you, Luis, that it's a cash grab because it is, but ultimately that game is amazing. The graphics look incredible. They completely like remade that game. Me and Dale, I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, we were just marveling at the fact, like, look at the water, man. Look at the moss that mixes in with the water when you move the tablet, or not the tablet, the palette in the water, right? And it's like, it's incredible, looks incredible, plays incredible, and it's one of those things where it's like, I wish I could just replay games like this, right? Like this is the quality of when I replay it a few years from now. But
this is why we play games.
This is why we play games. But for me, ultimately, it would have been top 5. But I feel just because it's sort of a remake, to me, I know we didn't put criteria in here, but to me, it's like, okay, it's outside. It's definitely an experience, especially if you haven't played the first one, man. I know it's pricey. They're talking about charging you $70 or $60 for it, but if you can absorb that cost, or if you get it cheaply, it's definitely try it out. That is the way to play that game. But we'll get into our top 5s already. Dylan, remember, we're doing the worst quote unquote game to your best.
I did that 1 year and you just never let me live it down.
I will consider not bringing it up next year. I will consider. What is your Dalan?
You're gonna bring it up again.
Dalan, what is? Well, you can bring it up on wax. You could be like, Carlos, I told you were gonna bring it up again, and I'll be like, you know, that little emoji where the guy puts his hands up, the little shrug. Dalan, what is your number 5 game of 2022?
Well, the one thing I will mention in this regard is for any of my top 5, or actually for any of the games that I picked, I did create one criteria for myself, is that I chose not to do any games that were re-releases or remakes of previous games, because it was just the game coming out again. That's fine. Like Last of Us Part 1, yes, they definitely upped the graphics for it, but I wasn't going to put that on my top because I played it back on PS3 years ago. So in this particular instance, my number 5 though is actually Shredder's Revenge. Ooh. Simply because it was a very excellent homage to the original beat 'em up Ninja Turtles game. Like, they did it right, and it was just fun to play with multiple people, and they didn't mess up the online gameplay. They had a little world building thing that had a story. They had little fun things that could happen throughout the whole thing. People are still stealing other people's pizzas while you're running across the map. It was just total fun and kind of an unforgettable experience. And if anybody ever says, "Hey, Dalan, we're going to play Shredder's Revenge today," as long as it's still available on the Game Pass for the time
I was going to say, okay, Dalan. Yeah. That's what I was going to mention, actually. It is on Game Pass, so it's like a no-brainer, and you'll have a lot of fun with it, right? So.
Hey, depending on how much people really want to play it, though, I might repurchase it on Switch, because I know a couple people that have it on Switch too. So.
You know, the Switch is building kind of its own little library of like I already have 2 games that I'm like, I'm gonna have to break down and just buy these: the Tony Hawk remakes and Tetris Connected or whatever. I see them on sale. I'm like, I just need them on the Switch. I need them portably, right? So I think Shredder's Revenge.
It's like you and Rocket League. You're gonna buy that game like 3 different times.
Yes. Shredder's Revenge is one where it's like, if it's ever cheap enough on the Switch, you know, maybe I'll throw some money at it. Deo, are you good on that, on your number 5, Dalan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Deo, what is your number 5 game of the year 2022?
My number 5 is, I guess no surprise if you've been listening to us talking about this, especially me, is Gran Turismo 7. And I know I talk so much crap about it, even online on Twitter, and only because it comes from a place of love. I want this game to do so good. And if I judge it enough
like
and
the
I
movie.
criticize enough, exactly. If I criticize it enough and the word gets out there and and Polyphony Digital hears my cries, then hopefully they'll fix this game. Because the base game is phenomenal. Like the actually driving mechanics, the physics are great. They do things with management of a race that you don't get anywhere else unless you're playing like a full-on iRacing sim, or like a full-on like racing sim that is built from the ground up for all these kinds of things. But the thing is that the thing that puts Gran Turismo over the top for me compared to other sim racing games is that it looks gorgeous, for one thing, not just in escapes mode, but in like regular racing mode. The online multiplayer is really well done, because they fixed all the lobby issues. There are balancing issues they have to figure out, but you could legit start like your own online career and esports career from like the base mode all the way up into grand finals within the actual game itself, which is beautiful if you're good enough. They also keep producing all these updates probably every 3 months, and they're all free, so we always get free cars. They dropped a couple of new tracks since it launched. And so the support is going to be there as long as people keep playing it. And although, like, the things like I always criticize about the game is like its in-game economy sucks. The car list is terrible. It's not good at all. They give you the most obscure cars.
This is your number 5 game of 2022.
This is my number 5. I know.
Yeah. But it's fair. But I like it. Though. I like it.
And like I'm gonna judge it as harshly as I do my other ones. So just I'm gonna preface that.
But I do like it. It's, you know, so it's an objective take, right, on it, where it's like it's our top 5, but they're not perfect necessarily, but they're still great. They're still good.
Right. It belongs up there for me anyway, and it's just gonna keep getting better when it gets onto PSVR 2. Hopefully that'll launch it into like a new, how do you say that, like a new audience of people to try it out, because it's gonna look really good.
That's right. So, it's gonna drop on PSVR 2. Did they say launch? I believe they even said launch, right? So does that make you want to get a PSVR 2 that
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Carlos,
okay. Get a pre-order in. Or
you don't even know. I said no on wax many times.
Hey, look, I'm grabbing it. I'm already in on the pre-order or whatever. If you need to drive down a few hours, 5, 6, 7 hours, however long it takes you, and you can try it out, right? Luis, what is your number 5 game of 2022?
So we're kind of in the same realm of thought there with, because it's a remake, that's kind of where I'm coming with this one, with The Last of Us Part 1. I can't put it any higher than 5, just because it is a remake. But when you look at the game, every single aspect of it, from the original, has been improved that they could improve. So basically anything that's not the story. Like you mentioned, the environments, the dynamic stuff, the lighting, the rendering, the shading, the character models were great. The facial animation was probably some of the best, if not the best, character animation in general that we saw this past year. So I gotta put it on the list for sure.
There you go.
I don't think it was a cash grab just for that reason, in the sense of a cash grab, because everything was done from scratch. It's not like they try to shit this thing out really quickly, right? And if you look at it sort of from that perspective, everything is a cash grab, right? Everything's trying to be profitable. Everything's trying to make money. But I do think that this remake came from a place of passion, where they wanted to make this the way that they originally envisioned it when this thing came out on the PS3. This is the sort of vision they had for it. Like the more dense environments, the foliage, like making everything look more like post-apocalyptic 20 years later after these events. So that's my...
And I don't think we've had you on wax about it, but you are just impressed, as me and they are, with the water and the moss and the and the palette, how it mixes in the water when they move it around, right?
Well, yeah, everything, because they had to, for performance reasons, they couldn't make everything as dynamic as they wanted to with the PS3 or even the PS4. So yeah, they putting all that stuff in there, like the breakable windows, even the dynamic foliage and environments, the water, like everything's great.
Yeah, and it's definitely, and I think you're right, and I think it's one of those things where they take such pride in their work that I believe this was supposed to be handed off to like a porting company, and I think Naughty Dog was like, which is probably what has pushed out the multiplayer, and I know even Neil Druckmann has talked about, I have plenty to say on Part 3, that's pushed those timelines, I feel, to where they're like, we are gonna work on it, we are bringing this in-house, and we're gonna make it beautiful, and it definitely shows. If you don't have anything else, I'll get to my number 5, Luis, here. No, my number 5 for 2022, and I'm still playing through it. I'm very far into it, but I can already tell it's like it's up there. I for now. Number 5 is A Plague Tale Requiem. Dude, I know I crap on that game. I think I've crapped on it before, but I was a little concerned, right? Because I played the first one just this past year, and I was like, okay, I get it, but it's kind of indie-ish. I still get a feel of the like, all right, the controls aren't necessarily perfect. I know Luis even kind of mentions like, oh, enjoy when she grabs a hold of that kid, how those controls feel. And it's definitely one of those things where the original was innovative, and I was like, I don't think they could do it again. And even starting off Plague Tale Requiem at the beginning, I was like, okay, it feels sort of the same. It looks beautiful now, though. It looks much better. It looks like they finally gave them a budget, Dalan. They finally put the graphics in. The background, the landscapes, everything looks great. Everything looks great. It's still just a little tiny bit off here and there, like the lip syncing and all that. But look, I'll give them a pass just because it's so beautiful. Otherwise, and they add a bunch of mechanics. It's one of the few games, like stealth game, that I actually like, man. We can call Metal Gear Solid a stealth game, but honestly, as soon as I get caught, I'm like running through. I'm shooting to the exit, and I'm like, this is what the game is for me. Plague Tale is a stealth game where it's actually kind of fun, and it's kind of like, all right, I got caught, but I can do it this way, and I can throw this there, and I can start a fire here. It's not like a super open world, and you can do everything, right? Don't get me wrong, but it still feels open enough to where like it's fun, and it's building up new mechanics. I just got to a mechanic where like, you can fight. I don't want to spoil it too much, but you can fight. The royal you can fight in the game. So it opens up the game a little bit more. But yeah, Plague Tale Requiem, they've proved me wrong. It's kind of like what I kept thinking about Gears of War. It's like, what else do they do with the third-person action games? Like, no, they surprise you. They surprise you with how fresh they can keep it. So that's for that reason. It's number 5 on my 22 games list. And we'll go back to you, Dalan, for your number 4. What is your number 4 game of the year?
My number 4 is simply because I actually just became a fan. Sifu. I just enjoyed
Dalan.
Sifu.
Okay.
I love my kung fu games, all right? And they did one excellent ass kung fu games. When I was younger, I used to just love watching all the kung fu movies, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen. I was just watching all of them. And then to just bring that into an interactive environment, I thoroughly enjoyed that Jet Li game, Rise to Honor. That was an excellent game to me. If they remade that game and brought it out next year, I would instantly buy it, regardless of how crappy it is. But for Sifu, they just did a beautiful job with it, and like the bosses kept changing as I was going through it, and it just kept getting more and more fun. And on top of that, you could just pass the controller to the next person and let them let's see how well they do and see how fast they age as they keep dying.
Yeah.
It's just a damn good game.
Dalan,
I'm glad.
And you played through it like on normal difficulty. You didn't lower the difficulty.
I did not beat it, but I played through like 3 or 4 stages of it. The normal difficulty, yes. It gets real difficult real fast, and then you're like, all right, I gotta go back a stage in order to get my old age back, and I gotta try and get through the stage without dying as much.
You know what? I want to normalize it. I want to normalize it on the Games of the Year podcast. You can put it on easy. You can put games on easy because it's like you're done. I want to see the end. I want to see the story. That's what's pulling me through it. I want to normalize that, Dalan.
I'm just gonna say this real quick, just as an extra note. Very recently, it was like a day or two ago. I actually a YouTube video popped up on my feed. It was a mod of Sifu with the main character in the Batman suit. The Batman suit. And Nicole was looking at the screen, and I was showing this to her. She was like, when did they come out with this Batman game? I was like, no, Nicole, this is Sifu. She was like, they just need to make that the game.
Yeah. No, it's nice, man. And I'm glad it touched your soul and your heart in such a way, because it's a good game. It's a decent game, right? Dale, what is your number 4 game of 2022?
My number 4 is Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, and like how everyone has been saying, like it's a fantastic beat 'em up game.
That's what it is.
I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Like even if you're playing by yourself or with family members or friends, and the multiplayer thing is just, it throws like a huge like cherry on the already great sundae. So play it if you haven't already. I love the pixel art. It was so perfect. They put so much personality in the animations for like Mikey and Raphael, and I don't know, I can't gush more about it than was already been said.
And on top of that, they give you the specials that you
all
can
the
actually
specials
do
that mix with each other. It's just like a whole different layer they put onto an already great beat 'em up genre. Like even if they didn't add any of that stuff, it's still a great game on its own merit.
And then you can unlock characters. That also made it great.
Great overworld, great music. Like the I think the soundtrack is really good for like a bit tune. So that's why it stays up on my number 4. I think it's one of the greats of the past year.
It just deserves to be on the top 5. Carlos, you're messing up.
I look. I'm a narrative. It's not part of the criteria, right? But there's no criteria, by the way. For now, there's no criteria. I agree with you guys. It is a great game, and for me, of course, when it's something co-op and when I can, like I've mentioned before, it's me, my child, Dalan, and his roommate, and then I still add a 6th person to play online together, and of course it's chaos. Nobody knows what they're doing. You can't see your character really. Well, you can if you're paying attention and on a big enough screen, right? But it's just chaos, and it's beautiful.
Couch co-op.
Yeah,
it's couch co-op. That makes it fun.
It's beautiful, man. So Luis, what is your number 4 game of 2022?
So number 4, I got to put A Plague Tale Requiem in there. For me, one of the main things that stood out to me, and I know I talked about this when I first did What You've Been Playing, but one of the best uses of the DualSense this past year, honestly. And the thing that really kind of struck me was the rats. Like when you kind of get close to them, you can sort of feel them. It's hard to describe. You kind of have to experience it yourself, but you can feel them kind of what side of the screen they're coming from. So it is actually kind of useful sometimes if you're kind of walking around and you don't see them. You're like, oh, damn, I'm kind of getting close to the rats. Maybe I kind of go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, they did a lot of great updates to the combat and the mechanics. One of my favorite things about it was the sort of dynamic passive upgrade system. I don't know if you noticed that, Carlos, but it sort of adapts to how you play the game. So if you're stealthing, it kind of upgrades that as you stealth. The more you stealth, or if you like combat, it upgrades that as you do that more. So that was actually really nice.
So like Skyrim, the more you squat, the more you get your stealth up.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah. No, I never really played Skyrim. Any one of the 40 versions of it that came out.
They keep buying it. They keep buying it.
Hey, I could just say this. I would just be sneaking my way through a cave, no enemies around or nothing. Suddenly, my stealth goes up a level. I'm like, okay.
I'll take it. Anything else, Luis?
Yeah, so like you were saying, you put the two games next to each other, and visually that you can't even compare the two. It's really kind of probably the best looking game I saw this past year overall, like the environments, lighting, the characters, and all that. So yeah, it all looked really nice, and it was probably the only game that I actually used photo mode this past year at all, because I just had to post those pictures on Twitter.
I think I saw you and Dale. Dale, you put some pictures up too for Plague Tale, right? Requiem. So
it's
yeah,
a beautiful game.
It's a nice game to kind of photo with it, I guess. Luis, anything? The thing you mentioned, kind of like you have to play it to feel it, like the rat motions, and how you know it's like, oh, I'm moving this way, moving against the wall. Did you guys ever play The Darkness? I think it came out on 360 and probably PS3. That's sort of like the tentacles was the sort of that kind of.
Oh, you're talking
feel.
about like the two little fox tentacles that come out and you're killing people.
Yeah, that's the closest thing.
Like they hang out.
Yeah, and they're like over the screen so you can see them. I think that's maybe the closest, but yeah, for what it's really weird. Like you take control of a swarm of rats, and now I'm gonna murder people, and it's always fun. It's always fun to like, oh, I can't go there because you're still limited by whatever the rats are scared of, which is fire. And you're like, ooh, there's fire there. So now you feel how they feel. But yeah, anything else, Luis, before we go to my number 4 here?
The story was, it wasn't great and it wasn't terrible. It was kind of somewhere in the middle for me. And it did sort of make us switch. I remember with the last game when we all kind of convinced you to start playing it, you text the group chat and you said, Hugo a bitch. That's what you said.
That was my statement.
And in Hotel Requiem, for me, it actually flipped. Like, I was like, why is she such a fucking, like, bitch? Not in, like, female
Whoa. Okay, yeah, okay.
But she was kind of like a pussy, I guess. She was sort of annoying, I guess is what it was at times. Yeah. So that was kind of one thing where I was like, I don't know if I like these decisions the character's making or the things she's saying or whatever. Yeah. But so that's why it's kind of at 4.
And the dialogue is kind of, it's really wacky, man. It's like, this is how I feel, and they say it out loud, and it's like, this is how I feel. Now I'm gonna walk over there. Like a lot of the dialogue is like them just speaking out crap that you're doing in action.
Disappointed.
And how Deo said it for GT7 is because it comes from a place of love. This criticism of a Plague Tale Requiem is from a place of love. I still like the game, and at number 4, you really like the game as full, Luis, right? Yeah. So for my number 4, and I'm basically at the last battle, but I'm convinced for my number 4 is Bayonetta 3, man. Bayonetta 3, dude. This game is super wacky, man. And it's like, look, the gameplay is super nice. I know I was like, you summon things and it's kind of wacky. They had me when you summon a clock tower. They said you can now summon a clock tower. And I was like, reasonable. How do I control a clock tower? Well, let me show you how. So there, and then you have like side-scrolling levels. You have like little Metal Gear Solid type levels. All kinds of crap. Like I'm playing like, I feel like, what's the old the game Afterburner, I believe, like where you're kind of just jumping around in the screen. There's those kind of levels. There's like, this game is out of control, man. It's super wacky. The only thing that I'm kind of a little sad about is it definitely, I think it's easier as the games have gone on. I've mentioned it before, but to me, I'm fine with it. I don't need a super, super difficult game. And of course, if you want to kick up the difficulty, you can do that. But I'm playing on normal just because people are like, of course you're playing it on easy, Carlos. No, I'm playing it on normal, playing it on regular mode. But I'm loving it. I know people were complaining about the story, whatever. To me, it's like, whatever, man. It was ridiculous since 5 minutes into the very first game. Now you guys are shocked. It does take it to an extra level because now we're talking about the metaverse and all kinds of crap. That was like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I like it. All right, that's the only thing I could say about the story in Bayonetta 3. It's super wacky, super meta. I'm enjoying it. It's my number 4 game of the year. And we'll take it to Dalan. What is your number 3 game of the year, Dalan?
My number 3 game of the year actually surprised me because I just kept coming back to it every time I would be talking about it, and that's Ghostwire Tokyo. As a matter of fact, I didn't even have this game on my radar before I got it in my hot little hands. Like, my friend gave me the game out of nowhere. He was like, just try it. And I went and tried it, and I could not put it down. And it just kept getting better and better. It was just... It was Ghost. What was it? It was Yu Yu Hakusho video game form, and it was super excellent.
You got Dale. You got Dale.
It is a JRPG. You're flying around. You're trying to save spirits the whole time. You're trying to cleanse areas, and I don't know what it is about that game, but it just keeps you going and keeps you just wanting to save more people and really figure out what's happening in this story. It's a huge mystery. And I can tell you right now, I did not beat this game, but it was so fun that I still put it on my number 3.
There it is, Ghostwire Tokyo. And you got Dale. You got another customer based on that description.
I'm super down. Oh my god.
Dale, what is your number 3 game of 2020? That did come out in 2022, right, Dalan? You're not breaking any rules. Okay.
I'm not breaking any rules.
Any made-up rules that we're making it up right now as we record. Dale, what is your number 3 game of 2022?
3 is, for me, is Stray. I love that cat game. I was super hyped about it when I saw the trailer for the first time, and I'm glad it didn't disappoint me on anything whatsoever. I knew it was an indie, so I wasn't expecting crazy mechanics or anything. But what the story that they told, or what kind of story they told, was super interesting to me. And
don't cry, Dale. Don't cry.
I can't it's kind of weird because the context of playing this game matters if you own a cat or you know people who own cats and how they they do their daily life. They're normally super lazy, and with this one I'm like, oh, this is like a little trooper cat trying to save the world. It's adorable, and it has all these intricacies about being a cat inside of the game that I was like, wow, that's kind of great. I was amazed that it ran so well on my Steam Deck, because that's primarily where I played it, and it still looked really good. So I think the graphics and everything and the art style scaled perfectly for that mid-tier PC to whatever the PlayStation 5 is probably the highest tier it is on. So I don't know, there's something about that game that was super endearing, from the opening chapter when you get hurt up until the ending when you
that
finally
made everybody upset.
Oh,
gave you a little awe. Gave you a little awe.
Come on, man.
And the fact that the game now I play. See, look, I know to not have. I know I mastered the game. I platinumed it. I say I can feel. I mastered it. I platinumed the game.
Sat there
so
and
I
did
feel
1,000 hours of sleeping or whatever it was to get that trophy.
What was it?
I had to.
Was it 1,000? I think I just left the PlayStation on.
Stupid number.
Whatever it was. Whatever it was, it was a platinum. So I feel like I'm justified, and it's just outside my top 5. But I will say this, Dale. I agree with the adorableness. The fact that you start off the game, it's like you have to go sit with the other cats real quick before you can continue on your adventure. It's like, if you're a cat person, it's Stray, man. It's Stray all the way. And I know my daughter was my daughter was super fascinated with it, man. She loves animals, dogs and cats, but she definitely was like, oh, and you have a dedicated meow button, man. What more do you want? Dedicated meow button, right?
And a scratching post button.
There you go.
Post button. You have a purring button. That's great.
The only
thing you need.
The only other funny dedicated button that I can remember of right now, there was a game called A Boy and His Blob that had a dedicated hug button. Had a dedicated hug button as well. So, but Prey, I like it, man. The number 3 game. Anything else on that, Dale? Before we move on to the next one.
Blink's Time Sweeper, you've been replaced as best cat. It is now Stray as the best cat. Sorry.
Blink's, by the way, which was outside of anybody's mind right now. They're like, whoa, that game exists.
Oh, man. It hit me with a left field thing happening right now. Okay.
What did Dale just say? Blinks. Does he have a vacuum? Does he have a vacuum as a weapon?
That's his weapon. That's his primary weapon.
That's his primary weapon. Luis, what is your number 3 game of 2022?
this is Grand Theft Auto 5, and I know this could be kind of controversial. It's a game that came out, 9 years ago on the PS3 originally and the Xbox. But yeah, I think it was they did a solid job of updating everything that the game needed to update to make a good user experience. Quality of life updates, as we call, like new couches around
a
here.
new physical couch in your
Hey,
room.
they gave you the quick button to eat snacks from the weapon wheel
It's
instead
stupid how crucial that change is to the game to make it so much better. But
Just
yeah,
tiny little changes.
things like that, tiny little changes. You could snack up an armor from the weapon wheel now. You're not forced to walking in certain environments anymore, which was really annoying in the game. But one of the main reasons for me, it was actually the best use of the DualSense this past year, for me at least. Every sort of aspect they used it to their advantage, and it wasn't overdone. It was just quite enough. And I remember we were playing one time, and Carlos was even like, "Oh, you could kind of feel like the gravel."
Yeah, you feel like the gravel under your car. Yeah.
So, I can feel my helicopter dying every time the propeller stopped midair.
Hey, but let me drive. Every time, please. Let me drive every time. All right?
But yeah, things like that. When you're in a helicopter, it feels like the what do you call it, propeller, rotor, whatever, spinning. It feels like those things, right? Same thing with the triggers. Like it feels like a brake and a pedal, kind of, at your fingertips. So that for me was one of the main reasons, but also the 3D audio was actually pretty good, and just making every sort of change that they could there to the visuals, right? The reflections were a lot better, the frame rates were better, lighting, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's just kind of hard to believe that a game this old can still kind of hold its own in this sort of generation. And it would be stupid for me not to put in this list when, based off of PlayStation's sort of highlight, I played this for 578 hours.
Reasonable, very reasonable.
55% of my game time on PlayStation was this game, so I gotta put it up there.
Hey, but I do like.
If you weren't playing Destiny with us, that's the game you were.
So
playing.
I do like that. Is GTA 5 is the quality of life update is your number 3 game of the year. I like that. My number 3 is Modern Warfare 2, specifically, of course, the campaign. It's like I've always talked about before, and I know it doesn't get a lot of awards, but to me, it's like you're full of shit out there, man. I'm sorry to say, but these games are like highly, like, the graphics are amazing. It plays super smooth. It's one of the only series that always is worried about, like, we need to run at 60 frames, and now it even has 120 hertz option. Like, it's such a beautiful game. The campaign, of course, it's like it's a blockbuster movie that you play at home, right? And I had a lot of fun with it. It definitely took you like all over the place. I like the story. Maybe one of the parts of that I like was that they go to Mexico and there's a lot of Spanish being spoken. Me being an interpreter, a Spanish language interpreter, I enjoyed that. And I just love how much fun the actors had, like, playing their roles. Like, I know if maybe you don't understand Spanish too much and you just get the subtitle version, you don't maybe get the full emotion, but in Spanish, it's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful thing. They got people that actually speak Spanish fluently. And the action was great. It's super smooth. You are playing like you were playing underwater. You're just all over the place. I had a lot of fun with it. The bosses were nice. The levels were nice. And, I know for the most part, this is my number 3 and it's the campaign. But look, honestly, it's the blast radius for a reason. I know. And they did the 1 year where they're like, we don't need a campaign. It's like, nope. Came back to the campaign, didn't you? So they did away with the campaign 1 year, and every single year since then, I hope they continue it, where I get my little piece of blockbuster popcorn action, my little summer blockbuster in video game form. So that's my number 3 game of the year, Modern Warfare 2. And we'll go to Dalan. What is your number 2 game of the year, sir?
A game that, again, I wasn't actually waiting for it, but then I decided to try it, and it did become one of my favorite games of the year. And that happens to be Tunic. Tunic was an excellent game for me. It was just beautiful, great art style, the old school Zelda feel for it. They gave you no information for this game. You are just running like, what do I do? Though most of the time, but every time you figure it out, it's just unlocking another piece of the puzzle. One of the reasons that I enjoyed Shadow of the Colossus so much was because every time you beat one of the Colossus, it felt like an accomplishment. Everything felt like an accomplishment. Tunic did the same exact thing for me. Everything felt like an accomplishment. Every time I figured something out, every time I realized where I was supposed to go, every new page that I picked up, the whole game was just rewarding like the whole way. So I strongly advise anybody who hasn't played that game, play that game. Do not look up the walkthrough online because you know it's at your fingertips somewhere, but just leave the walkthrough alone and just play the game and just enjoy everything that it has to offer.
Also, it's on Game Pass, right? And the pages that you're referring to, I believe, is the manual. It's like here's page here's page
and it's
4.
Not written in English. It's just written in Sony language.
Here's page 4 of the manual, and good luck reading this because it's all in Runix or whatever, in Rune language. Whatever. So, yeah,
it is honestly an excellent game. If you love a puzzle / Zelda game, play this. It's cute little fox. You're out there murdering stuff.
It's not exactly a roguelike either, but it is a little difficult.
It's not a
right?
roguelike.
No, I know.
It's like the old school like Nintendo top down.
But what I was gonna say it is like you die and try again, try and die again, right? Kind of thing. Or no, you didn't feel like it was
the
that
same
difficult?
thing happens in Zelda. You die, you go back, but as soon as you kill the thing, move forward. It's Zelda.
Yeah, but Zelda's incredible, man. So I don't.
Well, obviously
but Tunic
Zelda's incredible. But that's a different type of incredible.
Yeah,
Tunic is like one step behind.
But I like it.
Behind Zelda.
I like it. That's definitely one that I gotta go back to, man. It's not that long, right? It's not too long of a game.
No, it is not long. Especially once you figure out what you're really doing, then you kind of just fly through the rest of the puzzles.
I gotta find more manual pages, man. More pages of the manual. Dale, what is your number 2 game of 2022?
That would be A Plague Tale Requiem.
Okay.
I have a soft spot for that game, mainly because the narrative is like, so I don't want to spoil it, but it's really good. I kind of knew something bad was going to happen. I mean, the whole thing and whole shtick with this game is that it's terrible things happening to these kids, and you want them to survive in this harsh world. And that's part of it. That why I love it. I like the horror / like shock and awe aspect of the Plague Tale titles. And so to watch Amicia and Hugo grow up in this terrible world that's trying to kill them.
Yeah. You mean Earth?
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's a very specific time period. It's a very specific place that we don't see in games. It's just part of the novelty. As part of the goodness of it.
You know, and then like I do, doubling back onto what you were saying, describing about the game, like their mechanics are really well done. The stealth mechanics are fun instead of like punishing sometimes. I like to call them like improv stealth mechanics because like you're thinking about it on the fly. How to take out guards, how to distract them, how to like also stay away from rats or any other potential things that might kill you.
Fire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that's in there. Like I don't know if there's an achievement for it, but I've killed Amicia by accident so many different ways, and I wonder if there is one because there's a lot of ways to die in that game, and I would do it accidentally.
Yeah,
but it was entertaining.
That might be a Callisto Protocol trophy, but I don't know about Plague Tale.
Yeah,
right.
And go ahead, Dale. My bad. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to mention just like it would, like Louis said too. It's like very streamlined the way that the upgrade system works. It's not super clunky like how it was in the first game. It's more natural to like your gameplay style, and that was like something like I love that because I'm not spending time in on the workbench, and I'm not spending time in menus to like get to the next level. I'm just like doing whatever I kind of want to do within the confines of the game design. So that's why it's up there. It is literally like besides my number 1 is probably it's the most beautiful game that I've played, definitely of 2022. And it like I played it I played on Game Pass, and I've played it on Series X, my PC, and my Steam Deck, and it runs beautifully amongst all these devices. So I'm glad that this time it had enough like advertising and word of mouth that it was successful enough to be nominated for like Game Awards, whereas the first game was kind of like just ignored. until like a year later.
Which this one, I don't think it got too much accolades
Okay.
either. We're giving it a lot of like accolades here. Number 2, number 5 for me, number 4 for Luis, right? So we're giving it definitely a lot of respect that it deserves, I feel, especially because it's one of those like punching above its weight, definitely type of games.
Definitely is. Yes.
You know, and I think they do a lot of with the art specifically, where it's like, okay, it doesn't look exactly like even a Callisto Protocol that they put a lot of money into, right? And like these other big, huge games, but it still like looks good. It still looks nice because whatever it is, the art design that they work with it still looks pretty great. It looks pretty beautiful. Anything else besides that, Dale?
No, that's pretty much it.
Number 2 game of the year for Dale. A Plague Tale Requiem. It's on Game Pass, by the way. It's on Game Pass, by the way. Do not miss out on that game for sure, especially for quote unquote free with an asterisk, right? Because you're paying for the subscription. Luis, what is your number 2 game of 2022?
Number 2, speaking of things I don't think you should miss out on, and I'm speaking directly to you, Dalan, right here, is The Quarry. You definitely should go back and play that solo. It is a very good game. I liked a lot of things that game did. And sure, you know, we kind of dogged on it a little bit for voting the game. That was kind of a letdown, but honestly, once you play the game yourself, fortunately, I was playing it at the same time that we were playing it, us three. It sort of adds this nice wacky factor, especially with the odd numbers that we have here, where you make decisions and kind of put the pressure on someone. Like, all right, no, it's not my decision. If we die, it's your fault, kind of thing. But yeah, I really liked it. The animation, facial animation specifically, was the best that I saw this past year. It was actually really good. It was one of my favorite parts of the game. Sure, it had its kind of quirks, some visual bugs here and there, but nothing that sort of took me out of the game too much. But yeah, it was honestly a really good game, and it had a lot of holy shit moments when you did something or didn't do something, like, oh, I did not expect that to happen. That's a nice little twist or turn of events. But yeah, I actually really liked that game. I played it through, I think, 2 times, halfway-ish the third, and once with us 3 together. So I definitely am going to go back and clean up the trophies at some point for that. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about The Quarry.
Dude, let me follow up that with my number 2 is The Quarry, of course. And it's like, what more can I say? Plenty more I can say about this game. It's incredible. The facial animations. It's definitely, unfortunately, we did play it the first time around, voting the game, right? It's unfortunate, but I'm glad to hear, Luis, that you're a fan, I hope, from Supermassive, and it's kind of they're in the vein of like the Heavy Rain games, right? Like in what was the other, Detroit, right? Which I think those, the quality is a little bit better graphics wise and all that, but I mean they're a couple years out also, right? So The Quarry just kind of looks amazing now because it just came out. But I like the fact that there's 2 big heavyweight developers, right, that are making this kind of game, like choose your own adventure type of game. And also, like, the decisions you make aren't always clear, right? Sometimes you do have to miss, sometimes you do have to shoot this way, sometimes you have to do things on purpose. You're like, that seems a little counterintuitive, but when you go back, you're like, all right, yeah, maybe that sort of made sense. Or sometimes it doesn't make sense at all, right? But it was part of the adventure. I definitely platinumed the game. Have fun with that. What was the song that they sing on there, Luis? What's your favorite?
Pop peanut butter.
Have fun.
Pop them in your mouth.
Yes, those are the words. Those are definitely the lyrics, Deo, in this game. Have fun with that trophy, Luis, because I had to replay, and it was sort of a little glitch. I hope they updated so it's easier for you. But it's definitely one of those games that, just like with Detroit, it had me like, for one like bronze trophy just to get the platinum, let me go back and play through 3-4 different chapters. I almost quit on it just because it was just too much at that point. But I enjoyed it that much that I was like, you know what, let me get all these trophies. Let me clean up all the stuff that I can kind of do, which, as you guys know, to me, trophies are more ways to, like, replay the game in this way, or try to do this, or try to do that. And The Quarry is perfect for that. Dalan played it with us, but it's voting the game. When you play a co-op, it's fun, but in a certain aspect. Dale, I hope you get around to it, man, and just enjoy yourself some Quarry, man.
I haven't played those type of games since Heavy Rain. Like,
what did you like Heavy Rain? If you like Heavy Rain,
no, I didn't.
Oh, good. Then you know what? Never mind. Never mind.
Prophecy.
Yeah,
I like Indigo Prophecy. I love that game.
Okay.
But like,
no,
when I played
what
Heavy
was
Rain,
the one?
I was like, this is weird.
What was the one that had Ellen Page in it? Or I want to say her name was Ellen Page.
Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls. That was an excellent game too.
Deo, if you liked Indigo Prophecy, give it a shot. Maybe this is the one that sort of gets you. But it was so fun, man. I like those kind of games. Just even on the technical aspect and the fact that it's like keeping track of all these random little decisions that you have to make. And it's unforgiving.
Don't keep track of the decisions. Just make the decision and move on. And just see how the world unfolds.
Yes, the first time. For sure, the first time. But when you're going for that platy, Dalan, and you have to replay like 3 or 4 chapters, you kind of want to know what decisions, which I do respect.
Just couldn't get that shot off, Carlos.
Which I do respect Luis on this, because I believe he was replaying it and trying to get the right. Am I correct on this, Luis? You were like, I'm gonna try to get, I don't know if trophy specifically, but I'm gonna try to get this outcome to happen, and you have to, like, without a guide, right? You were doing it, Luis?
I'm still no guiding it. I want to see if I can figure it out.
You're out of control, man. I had a guide and it was like a problem. But hey, more respect to you. So number 2 game of the year, and I believe that one's in the lead for game of the year so far, but we'll see what our number 1s are. We're going to go to Dalan. What is your number 1 2022 game of the year, Dalan?
The one game that everybody was like, why didn't this win? It was the biggest upset because Elden Ring won for whatever freaking reason. God of War. It should have been number 1. Period. That game might be a little lengthy, but it's still an excellent game all the way around. It's great sound, great story, great characters, great animations, great fighting. I don't care if they reuse some of the assets, some of the animations to get in the boat. It doesn't matter, because that's the way Kratos gets in a boat. Kratos, whatever you want to call him. But the fact is that this game was just excellent, just outright.
Just outright.
This game is excellent. Just outright. This game is good.
I like it, man. I like everything you said. I'll have plenty to say. I know it's a spoiler, but Deo, what's your number 1 game of 2022, man?
Okay,
and the sun's not annoying. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
He grew up. He's not like Luis said. Oh, I think Luis saw an older video of the first game. He's like, this kid was a squeaker. So he's definitely the voice, right? The voice has gotten better, Luis, right? That was he's gotten a little bit better. Deo, what is your number 1 game of 2022?
I feel like I have to defend myself because I know I'm the only one that's going to vote this one in because I don't have all these crazy rules that everyone has.
All of a sudden. By the way, I tried to avoid. I will admit, Dale, I tried to avoid looking at your guys' top 5 to keep be surprised. But I did catch a glance of the last. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But the rules weren't set, so my bad. And I hopefully sorry that I kind of spoiled it. But
I don't know if it was the same last year, but like. I don't remember. I guess I legit don't remember.
So number 1 for you, in case people didn't hear it, I guess.
Number 1 for me, because I didn't get to play as many games as I would have loved in 2022, which I mentioned in my honorable mentions. Honestly, I think God of War would have probably won it for me too. But number 1 for me, in terms of like the best game that I played, was The Last of Us Part 1. I know it sounds weird, but because it's a remake twice over, but I think it's technically amazing.
Did you play it the first time around?
Yeah, I played 2013. I played the remaster version. I played the DLC after that, and like it's still amazing to me. The reason why I say it's my number 1 is because as I was playing it midway through, I was thinking about like I know what's gonna happen. I know the plot lines. I know who dies and who lives. But like I wanted to watch it over and over again. Like I couldn't wait to get to that part. And like I think about like my favorite kinds of movies and how I play them. I watch them every single year, like Star Wars, like Harry Potter, like Interstellar, all those types of things. And I feel like this is the type of game that I could just play every single year and not even get bored of it. It's the right length to me. Last of Us Part 2 was way too long and way too overhanded and heavy-handed for me to get through it. Like I'm like, oh, I'm so miserable playing this game. Why do I keep going? Whereas The Last of Us is like that perfect like relationship of Ellie and Joel. I don't know. It's a very simple story, and that's the simplicity makes it kind of great because you don't have to complicate it with too many things. You know the motivations of each one of the characters, and it shows that they put the highest quality in each one of them, and that's why I love replaying it. Besides the graphics, besides like George Lucasing it up and everything. Like
they didn't remove the guns for walkie-talkies though, at the very least,
no,
right?
they
didn't do that.
They added so much more. Like Luis, touched upon it before. Is that like this is the best version that they wish they could have made back in 2013, which is totally true. I remember during one of the fights that you get into in Boston, that like I remember I was shooting through out of the library, and then like I forgot to like finish off one of the guys. Like I mortally wounded him, but the guy was still like writhing on the floor, bleeding out, like behind me, and I was like, "What is that noise?" And I go back there, and the dude's begging for his life. I'm pointing the gun straight at his face. He's like, "No, man, we could talk about this." And it felt so freaking real because the graphics are so much better this time around. And I'm like, Jesus, like. I don't want that ever to happen to me. Like, like I think about that. Like,
I still think about that to this day. It's all look and everything. I agree with pretty much everything you're saying as far as like the story. I feel like too, it was great. It's one of the greatest games ever made. Part 2, but Part 1, I feel like the simplicity of it. And by the way, like how you were saying, I played the story and I platinumed that game as well. Part 1, but by the end of it, I'm kind of like, oh, I know what happens. And then when the ending is just incredible, right? For people who haven't played it, but it's like you didn't have to say much more than that. You didn't have to like, oh, it's the end. No, we're gonna go for another 12 hours of this torture story, and it's just perfectly told. And I'm happy that Neil Druckmann is kind of like, I have more to say, and I hope they kind of took lessons, or not that they have to listen to the fans, not that they have to listen to me or anybody else, right? But that they're like, okay, where did they what was good about 1 and what was good about 2, and let's just make the perfect, easy, like to understand story where it's not kind of like all funky narrative wise and the what do I call it, Luis? I think you remember what the basically the pacing of the game is just a little wacky with 2, even though it's an incredible game in its own right. But it's great. Last of Us Part 1. Anything else, Dale, before we get to
I know the reviews came out for the HBO show, and I hope it's really good. I'm really excited to see how they expand on Bill's character, the one, and I hope they're not they go too crazy with it. I don't want them to complicate it too much. Like, Neil Druckmann is cool and all, but I feel like he's super elitist these days, and he's kind of a snob.
Reasonable. Your own Adam Sessler moment on Wax.
I don't care. I don't care if he listens to this, whatever. But like, just lay off of that type of thing. We get it. just make the story.
It's his what do you call? Who was the guy you were hating on, Dalan, that had the Sonic hat?
Oh man, I can't.
The fighter,
the fighter, the Mortal Kombat fighter, the guy with the fox head, Sonic Fox.
Sonic Fox. That is this is Deo's Sonic Fox moment right there. It's like, Neil Druckmann, I don't care. And it's actually for me. Who do I keep hating on, Dalan? Mr. The No Man's Sky man, Sean Murray. Sean Murray, stop lying to people, man. Stop. You only have 10 people on your team. You can't build the whole universe with 10 people on the squad. But I digress. Luis, what is your number 1 game of 2022?
Yeah, no huge surprise here. Same as Dalan, God of War Ragnarok. I don't know if I can say much else that he hasn't said, aside from, we were talking about pacing just in the last game, and I think the pacing in this game was probably some of the best that we've seen in recent years, honestly. Like, everything was moving at a really solid pace. It didn't feel too slow, didn't feel too fast. It all felt very sort of natural, like kind of
as long as
one. What's that?
I was gonna say, as long as you keep moving forward, the pace feels great.
Yeah,
and you can get stuck on side quests.
Well, yeah, but even if you don't, to that point, even if you don't get stuck on side quests, the narrative and the dialogue between the characters sort of makes it so that if you go on the side quest, they still kind of talk about the main story or talk about a story within the world that you're in. That doesn't feel forced. It kind of feels like it's adding to the whole thing, right? And even there's times where like there's definitely something you should be getting to, and they go, well, if you kind of want to mull it over and think about it before we go, we can do something here I've been wanting to take care of. So like they kind of make everything feel really, really natural and fluid. And speaking on that, the one takes are back, right? Like if you thought that the one take from the first game was really good, the way that they did it in this game, it was just so much better. A lot of really great transitions between points of the game that didn't feel forced, cheesy or whatever. It was very cool. I don't know how else to. It was kind of it was
nifty.
This is why we play games. It was fluid.
This is why we play games.
So yeah, that's my number one. Then.
Yeah, I don't think you guys are gonna be surprised, and I hope kind of Dale would have played it, because I probably think it would have been our unanimous game of the year, because it's definitely my number one game. Look, I don't want to hate on Elden Ring like you did, Dalan, but it's also weird seeing that. I feel like
no. Hey, that's not fair. I don't hate Elden Ring, but it's just not my cup of tea. Like everybody else's. I hit that point where I was going through a castle for like 2 hours and finally got to like the midpoint of it, and then I got 1,000 arrows from all directions.
Dalan,
and I just got murdered on the spot.
Thank you. I
lost all my health.
Thank you for stepping on my line and going on a diatribe about Elden Ring. I know you had to defend your honor, I guess. But anyways, Ragnarok, man, this is why we play games. You guys already said it multiple times. It's incredible, man. And it is one of, like Luis was mentioning, the fact that it's like a 25-hour game. And I'm critical path Carlos. I'm just critical pathing everything. All these little moments, I enjoy the little prompts of like, don't you want to do this? We can explore here. It's like, no, I don't. All right, maybe later when I'm going for the trophies or something. But for now, no. Give me the little gold paw or whatever the thing is, and tell me where I need to go next. It's incredible. It's a long game, but it feels right. It's paced right. The dialogue is incredible, and it's actually one of the few games, surprisingly enough, I'm still surprised and shocked, pleasantly surprised, that they created God of War Kratos, a man that just had chains and had orgies at the beginning of every game, into a man who is a father and son story, and it brings a little tiny tear every so often in the game, and it's within the context of the game. I don't know if we talked about it on Wax before, but I think off Wax we talked about it. It's the fact that, like, you go back to the Uncharted games where they had the ludo narrative cognitive dissonance that the quote-unquote journalists were talking about years ago, and it's like, no, it's in the context of a violent ass game, and we're committing violence, and yet, okay, as my son, I'm teaching you to do this, listen. And like the first game where he's like, you're not ready. And you get he's becoming ready through all these little adventures and all these like quests, and you see kind of like the coming of age of Atreus, where he's kind of like being a rebel, and you're following him on that adventure and the friends he makes, and it's an incredible experience. I respect the fact that, like, for example, the Game Awards gave Elden Ring's Game of the Year, which I respected in a gameplay aspect and all this. But if you really want like a super cinematic, plays incredible, they definitely up the graphics for sure, and they up the mechanics. And even though it's a bit of a Yakuza game by replaying through some of the same areas, I guess, because people were out there talking about sort of a Yakuza game, it's still upped it to. It doesn't matter. It's incredible. It's a new story. It propels, what they kind of the storyline of that they did with the first one, and they did it in a two-parter as well, right? Where it's like, it's the end. Of course, they leave it slightly open, right? But they've said before, like, no, it's a two-parter, and then I'm sure there's going to be other adventures in the future, which of course there is. It's such a huge game. But Game of the Year, man. Game of the Year for sure for me, and I know it would have been unanimous if Deo had played it, because I know he'd be like, Indies be damned. Deo would have been Indies be damned. Indies be damned. It would have been God of War Ragnarok. So look, I don't even got to do the math.
Should be the next on your list, Deo.
Look, I don't have to do the math. I was doing the math on these papers here. But we already know it's God of War Ragnarok with 15 points. Nothing else came close. Again, we'll kind of end it there. We've gone for quite a bit. We'll be back on the next episode. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of, what did you say, Dalan?
Origami cranes.
Origami killer. But no,
killer cranes.
Killer cranes.
Put little shards of metal in the beaks and just throw it at people.
Carlos Macias. We also have Dalan Kirkwood from Up in the Mountains. Will you show them, Dalan, the sleeping bag that you're in?
Yeah, I got a sleeping bag.
Okay, right? There you go.
Over here wrapped.
Comfy.
You really are. Look at that. Look at that. Look at Dalan on video. Dalan Kirkwood from Up in the Mountains. Thank you very much. And the king of Mid Bay. I hope you don't lose any more delineators out in the wild, Dale. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you. We got plenty of those going around. Thank you, Dalan, for showing that last bit. That made my night.
Hold on, just as an extra moment for fun. Okay. As you guys know, this is also my office for work. So I just got everything Dalan. Right here. So I'm just sitting here in my sleeping bag, just working and typing away the whole time. And it's just I got my sleeping bag up to my armpits. Just
you're doing a lot, Dalan. You're doing a lot. And of course, the man from out there in the void. Thank you for joining us, Luis. I know it was longer than we promised. Okay, entered the scene. Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel. He is alive. We promise. He showed us the phone. He doesn't have a newspaper because who has a paper newspaper hanging around? But he did show us the time in the phone, so he is alive.
Hey, I'm sorry you say this, but when his character shows up on the screen because of the background that he's got going on, he kind of looks like a ghost. You came in like a ghost right now.
So who knows? Maybe we brought him back in holographic form. But Luis Mendez, thank you for joining us, sir.
Couldn't miss this one.
Good. Thank you very much. It came out at an interesting time, but I'm glad everyone was able to be here for this one. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys had fun listening to it, and we'll see you guys next time. Latest.